In terms of proportion to total street prison population, it varies. Over the years, it's been between 25% to 41% of street prison homeless comprised of First Nations people. Street prison homeless. The numbers are as high as they've ever been. It's now 28%, but what's actually happened is the total street prison population has doubled in the last few years, from 600 to 1,200 street prison homeless. So we've still got a high toll of First Nations people who are street prison homeless, more than 300, and that's as high as it's ever been. But we've got 1,200 street prison homeless. We've got a lot of migrant-born street prison homeless. We've got a lot of people who have entered homelessness in the last couple of years, and that's an increasing crisis, not only in Perth, but the highest in the country. Street prison homelessness is, in terms of Perth's the 10th highest proportion of street prison homeless in the country, the 10th highest region in the country. Obviously, the Northern Territory, with its horrific rate of homelessness, street prison, is the highest in the country and has the 7 highest regions out of the top 10 in the country. But Perth is number 10. That's an abomination for a rich and affluent jurisdiction such as West Australia, and Perth's got no excuse. 1,200 street prison homeless in Perth and Peel, and 300 to 400 just in the Perth area alone, including CBD, East and West Perth. There should be real-time data, and the media should be able to cover it, on street prison deaths of, losing people who are homeless on our streets. There's barely a mention in any media across the country. Nationally, it's easily, sadly, tragically over 400 nationally. In Western Australia, it's close to 100. In Perth, it's last year recorded at 56, and this year we're still going at 1 a week. And we're in the 30s now, and we're heading to more than last year, more than likely at 60 plus. That's tragic. If we had this in the news, because we've got real-time data, it would galvanise radical empathy, it will galvanise outcomes, it will galvanise the cultural shift which will demand something needs to be done. So we do need this data, and we do need it published, and we do need it covered by the media. Otherwise, if we don't know about the deficit discourse, if we don't know about what's happening to our people on the streets, it's not likely we're going to pull any levers to make any change. Australians should know, household Australians should know that you are 10 times more likely to die on the streets than you actually are in normal living circumstance, if you were a household Australian. We lose 170,000 Australians each year. The death rate for Australians in terms of our 25.5 million total population is 0.5%, but of street prison homeless in Perth it's 6%. Nationally it's over 5% of street prison people who die on the streets. That's 10 times the national rate. That's a hideous reprehension and abomination that in the 13th largest economy on the planet shouldn't be occurring. There are countries that are much more, that are much poorer than us, have less asset wealth than us. We are a double trillionaire economy, and yet we are faring worse than other nations who have less than us. In terms of the OECD, we are the 3rd highest homelessness rate in the OECD. That's reprehensible.
What should the government be doing?
The West Australian government has a $5 billion surplus. It should be building social housing. Not just transitional accommodation, impermanent accommodation, but social housing. For $5 billion, it can actually wipe out all unmet need in terms of all forms of homelessness. $5 billion can build 18,000 public houses, social housing, and meet all need, and have a surplus, for the future. And what further we should be doing is implementing the policy that Finland has, that 4 Danish individuals in 2010 put together and then campaigned and lobbied across Scandinavia, and Finland had the political will to uptake it. The housing first agenda, the authentic housing first agenda, which is to build social housing. In Helsinki, they have ended effectively, reduced to the negligible street present homelessness. And the asset wealth of the Finnish people is on average 25,000 per person. The asset wealth of Australians is at 267,000. What excuse do we have as the 13th largest economy to not go down that path? And Western Australia is the powerhouse of our economy, one of the richest jurisdictions in the world, amongst the highest median wages. We should be implementing the housing first agenda akin to the Finnish housing first agenda that has seen overall throughout Finland a 40% reduction in homelessness in all its forms in the last 7 years, and has seen in Helsinki the elimination effectively of all street present homelessness.